Nagamasa, there was a time when we walked together as allies. Do you remember the time when you took Oichi as your wife and deepened our alliance?
Yes, Nobunaga Dono. At that time, I believed that our Omi, Nobunaga's Mino, and Owari were united in the cause of war under heaven together.
However, after our advance into Kyoto, things changed drastically. The expansion of my power must have been seen as a threat to you.
That is correct. As Nobunaga Dono's power increased day by day, my position was becoming more and more precarious. Some of the surrounding feudal lords were saying that I should oppose Nobunaga Dono.
And so our march to Echizen led to a decisive betrayal. When you and Yoshikage Asakura joined forces, I felt betrayed.
Nobunaga Dono, it was not an easy choice for me either. However, the alliance with the Asakura family was essential to protect Omi and as a measure to withstand the pressure of Nobunaga Dono.
I understand, but I cannot tolerate. What were your army and Asakura's allied forces aiming at in the Battle of Anegawa?
We only wanted to protect our territory and sovereignty. In order to halt Nobunaga Dono's momentum as much as possible, we felt that the use of force was unavoidable.
The battle was fierce. Your army and Asakura's army fought brilliantly, but in the end, our army won the battle. How were you feeling at that time?
Along with the pain of defeat, I felt deep despair. At the same time, however, I had a newfound respect for Nobunaga Dono. I had learned anew the depth of Nobunaga's strategy and his determination for the country through that battle.
After our victory, we were able to consolidate our control over Omi and solidify our foothold in the Hokuriku area. I feel that our military leadership and tactics have been further refined through our battles with you.
As Nobunaga Dono's ambitions were steadily advancing toward unifying the country, I was constantly asking myself what I should hope for.
Nagamasa, what did you learn from that battle?
I learned that tough decisions are necessary for the greater good and the importance of acting with conviction.
Warfare is not just a clash of forces. Each side's beliefs intersect, and history is formed, sometimes painfully.
That is exactly right. The battle with Nobunaga Dono left me with many lessons to learn.
History is always in flux. Our battle is just one page, but the importance of this battle should be passed on.
Nobunaga Dono, I am deeply impressed by your words. What our battles will tell future generations will be determined by the world to come.
Nagamasa, the courage and determination you showed in battle were engraved in my heart. Even if we face each other as enemies, that fact will never change.
Nobunaga-sama, I am so glad to hear you say so. However painful it may be, I will continue to walk forward with those words in my heart.
Good, that's what being a feudal lord is all about. Times are always changing, but new histories will be spun on the foundations we have laid.
Yes, Nobunaga Dono. Let us not forget the role we have played in the ever-changing times, and let us watch over the new history. Nobunaga Dono, I used to be unable to speak from the bottom of my heart about the real reason why the Battle of Anegawa took place.
Well, Nagamasa, let me ask you about your true intentions after all this time. What drove you to this point?
With the rapid expansion of Nobunaga Dono's power, my territory, Omi, was feeling the pressure day by day.
A sense of oppression? If you had believed in our alliance, though, such fears would have been dispelled.
Nobunaga Dono, the alliance was only a promise written in a book. But the reality was that as Nobunaga Dono's army approached Omi, the fear of the people grew.
What exactly do you mean by the fear of the people?
For example, the harsh measures taken by Lord Nobunaga's army in other areas. Rumors were spreading that this might extend to Omi as well.
It is shameful that you take rumors so seriously. My policy is only for peace and to end the turbulent world.
It is not that I did not understand this. However, because of his relationship with Yoshikage Asakura, he had to find a way to withstand pressure from two fronts.
Was your relationship with Asakura a distant cause that turned you against Oda?
Frankly speaking, the alliance with the Asakura family was not only a strategy to oppose Nobunaga Dono, but also to protect the Omi region.
How ironic that he would betray his former friends in order to protect the land.
I understand that this can be seen as a betrayal. However, from my standpoint as a feudal lord, my duty to protect my territory and my people comes first.
Duty. That it weighed more heavily in your mind than our alliance.
Nobunaga-sama, what would you have done if the situation had been reversed?
I have always acted in accordance with the principles of Tenka Fubu. But I understand what you are saying.
Dear Nobunaga, what we faced was not just a clash of power, but a clash of ideas.
A clash of ideals. That's what makes the warring world even more complicated.
Yes, we have justice for each other, but it clashes. That is the truth of the Battle of Anegawa.
Your righteousness has resulted in the shedding of much blood. Do you understand the weight of that?
Every day, I feel crushed by the weight of it all. However, the only way to become a lord is to overcome it.
Then you made the right choice and you still think so?
We can't change the past, but if the situation is the same as it was then, we will have to make the same choices again.
So much so that you are sure of your choice.
Whatever we choose, Nobunaga Dono, the correct answer will always change in the course of time. But we have no choice but to choose the path we believe is best at the time.
I take your words very seriously. But the war is over and now is the time to look to the future together.
It certainly is. We must learn from past battles and apply them for the future. That is the responsibility of us feudal lords.
Nagamasa, I would like to believe that having this dialogue with you is in itself a sign of the beginning of a new era.
I feel the same way, Nobunaga-sama. Dialogue beyond conflict will be the key to shaping the future of Japan.
Nagamasa, time has passed since the Battle of Anegawa and many things have changed. What do you think now about the impact of that battle?
Nobunaga Dono, the Battle of Anegawa certainly had a tremendous impact on us. In particular, there was a major change in the ruling structure of Omi, which was my territory.
The battle strengthened the influence of the Oda family in Omi and facilitated their advance into the Hokuriku region.
That said, it is important not to overlook how Nobunaga Dono's policies have brought about changes in the local economy and society.
Indeed, the victory in the war led to the development of new economic policies and the revitalization of commercial activities. It also became a source of funds for the unification of Japan.
From my perspective, it would be very interesting to see how its economic policies were received by local merchants and farmers.
After the war, land was redistributed in many areas to increase productivity. This led to economic growth and stabilized the lives of the people.
The hardships faced by the people during the war were great, but the reforms made up for it during peacetime.
As a result of the war, many generals and soldiers lost their lives. This also changed the structure of the warrior class.
That is correct. In particular, there was a growing tendency among warriors to place a high value on war success, which in turn affected the spirit of Bushido.
Technological advances in warfare should not be overlooked. The use of guns became commonplace and brought about a major change in tactics.
It is true that guns have transformed the power relations on the battlefield. It has encouraged the diversification of strategies, hasn't it?
On the cultural front as well, many cultural projects were promoted after the war. The tea ceremony and no theater became popular among the warlords.
It was during that period that cultural activities began to be emphasized as an important part of a warlord's education. This led to later cultural development.
The Battle of Anegawa was not just a victory, but had a profound impact on Japanese society and culture in the years that followed.
Indeed, I am again amazed that a single battle can have such a multifaceted impact.
At the time, I saw it as just another battle, but looking back now, I understand that it was a major turning point.
For myself, the lessons I learned in the fight have greatly influenced my subsequent actions.
What we learned through the battles helped us grow. That is the value of history.
For those of us who lived through the Warring States period, that experience is the foundation for the peace we enjoy today. It is good to realize that.
Nagamasa, I feel that this dialogue today has deepened our understanding of history from each other's perspective.
Dear Nobunaga, I agree with you. Seeing history from a different perspective has given me new insights.
Learning from history is a lesson for the future. We must always be aware of what our experiences will tell future generations.
By passing on the memories of the war to the next generation, we can prevent the same mistakes from being repeated. That is our responsibility.
They say history repeats itself, and it is up to us to prevent it. Nagamasa, it is known throughout the world that our army was victorious in the Battle of Anegawa. But do you understand how much meaning I attach to that victory?
Nobunaga Dono, I understand the weight of victory itself, but I cannot see what kind of emotions Nobunaga Dono was carrying.
After the victory, I felt that my progress toward unifying the country was even more assured. But the battle with you as my former ally was also complicated for me.
My battle with Nobunaga Dono was also heartbreaking for me. We once shared the same ambitions, and now we face each other as enemies. I am still conflicted about how to accept the irony of this fate.
Conflict. You're joining forces with Asakura. That was nothing but betrayal to me. But it is also true that I saw your courage and determination in the battle and tried to understand you.
The feelings of betrayal that Nobunaga Dono felt, I take them very seriously. However, for me, too, rebelling against Nobunaga Dono was an unavoidable choice. In order to protect the safety of Omi and our ties with Asakura, that was the only way I could see.
What is the bond? Is it not a bond for peace under heaven that we lords should build?
While I agree with that statement, it is sometimes difficult to see the big picture when faced with the immediate issue of local peace of mind.
Well, local peace and peace under heaven are sometimes at odds with each other. But my goal is clear: to unify the nation and end the turbulent times. To achieve this, we must make tough choices.
Nobunaga Dono's vision of a united Japan is indeed ideal. However, how do you feel about the many sacrifices that will be made along the way?
Sacrifice is inevitable, but we believe it is necessary suffering for the sake of long-term peace.
The pain can be an unbearable burden for someone like me and compel me to act.
You're right. However, the action may result in further confusion. How to resolve this will be the test of our lords.
Trials. I feel the weight of that word. As for Nobunaga Dono, I am sure that he is often looking at the big picture, which is difficult for a small feudal lord like me to understand.
It is the duty of the feudal lords to see the big picture. But they also need to understand the specific problems faced by the lords in each region. My dialogue with you has helped me to see this point.
If our dialogue can bring something to Nobunaga Dono, then so much the better.
The battle with you, and now the dialogue. All of this feeds into my actions. It is beneficial for me to know your point of view and your feelings.
I am honored that a man like Nobunaga-sama would listen to the opinion of someone like me. I am honored.
Don't call it an honor. This is a learning and growth opportunity for both of us.
An opportunity for growth. I take this seriously and will continue to value the dialogue with Nobunaga Dono.
It is for the good of both of us and for the good of the world. Nagamasa, how do you think the Battle of Anegawa affected not only our direct conflict but also the society and economy of the time?
Nobunaga Dono, the Battle of Anegawa brought about significant changes in the social structure, especially in the Omi region. My territory, Omi, has since seen economic development as a result of Nobunaga Dono's policies.
That is correct. Victory in the war allowed our administration to further bring the Omi region under our control and to pursue an aggressive commercial policy.
At the same time, however, it was a great challenge for the local traditional powers and merchants, who also had a hard time establishing the new order.
Establishing a new order was not always easy, but it was essential for long-term stability and prosperity. Local forces also had to adapt to the new trends.
Indeed, in the process, many locals were forced to change in order to adapt to the new policy. In particular, Nobunaga Dono's aggressive introduction of guns led to significant changes not only in tactics but also in local security.
The introduction of guns revolutionized the tactics of the warring states period. This led not only warriors but also peasant soldiers to play an important role on the battlefield, affecting the hierarchical structure of society.
Changes in social hierarchy would be an important factor in Japan's subsequent history. In particular, the transition from peasant to samurai was made possible, increasing social mobility.
Increased mobility is certainly important. It has led to a reorganization of society based on competence and more efficient governance.
Nobunaga Dono's policies had a great impact on the cultural aspect as well. In particular, the spread of such cultures as the tea ceremony and no drama among the warrior class improved the cultural level of society as a whole.
The improvement of culture means the refinement of society. Through the tea ceremony, warriors were able to learn civility and enhance their spirituality. This was another important factor in creating a unified nation.
The cultural impact of Lord Nobunaga's policies has certainly been significant. However, it is also important to note that it did not benefit all segments of the population equally.
Certainly, there will always be gainers and losers in change. However, from a long-term perspective, we believe that we have contributed to the development of society as a whole.
The development of society as a whole sometimes involves individual sacrifices, but these sacrifices are justified when the results are clear and benefit the whole.
The interests of the whole are often different from the interests of the individual. But as rulers, we should always put the interests of the whole first.
This idea is consistent with Nobunaga Dono's ambition to unify the country. However, the tensions and resistance that arise in the process are also facts that cannot be ignored.
Tension and resistance are inevitable in the process of creating a new order. Overcoming them will build a stronger society.
That may indeed be true. But we must also remember the importance of dialogue and understanding in the process.
Dialogue and understanding, that is indeed important. Understanding different opinions and positions is the foundation for building a better society.
Through this dialogue with Nobunaga Dono, we are reminded that we too are a part of history.
History is shaped by our actions. And what that history tells future generations is important.
The history that should be passed on to future generations should reflect diverse voices, not just a story of winners.
Reflecting diverse voices, that is true history. I take your words very seriously. Nagamasa, I never thought we would meet again here today. Much water has flowed since the Battle of Anegawa, but now is the time to speak the truth.
Dear Nobunaga, indeed, time has passed and we have changed. Perhaps now is the time to have an honest conversation with each other about the feelings and choices we made back then.
The victory at the Battle of Anegawa was a big step toward my ambitions, but inwardly I had mixed feelings about fighting you.
I, too, was deeply hesitant to fight Nobunaga Dono. I was torn between our family ties and my duty as a feudal lord.
It was painful for me to fight against you, who had Oichi no Keita as your wife. However, it was also an unavoidable battle for the stability of the country.
I understood Nobunaga Dono's philosophy of war under heaven, but in order to protect Omi and to respect the alliance with Asakura, I had no choice but to resist.
It is also true that joining forces with Asakura, though an alliance, was perceived as a challenge to our Nobunaga.
In this regard, I was always concerned about how my judgment would have appeared to Nobunaga Dono.
Your actions certainly infuriated me, but as time has passed, I have come to understand the choice from your perspective.
I had no idea that Nobunaga Dono had such an understanding, and I have only been reminded of it.
You call it remorse, but you fought to protect your lands and your people. It could be said that you fulfilled your responsibilities as a feudal lord.
However, this resulted in a disconnect with Nobunaga Dono. This is my greatest regret.
Regret, but history is formed by the accumulation of such choices. Our decisions will have some meaning for future generations.
I am deeply impressed by the words of Nobunaga Dono. Indeed, if our actions serve as a lesson for future generations, that may also be the role of history.
Nagamasa, I consider it valuable that I could talk with you like this.
Likewise for me, Mr. Nobunaga. This time to reflect on the past, but also to look to the future, is very precious.
Yes, we do. History will judge us, but we are also the makers of history.
We are proud to have been a part of each other's history. And I thank you for having this opportunity.
It is we who should thank you. Nagamasa, I have learned a lot from my dialogue with you.
Thank you, Nobunaga Dono. It must be some kind of fate that we, who have left our mark on history, are able to talk like this.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? Just imagining how someone in the future will appreciate this dialogue today is mind-blowing.
We hope that our story will help people in the future in some small way.
Now, I would like to thank our readers as well. We sincerely thank you for listening to our dialogue.
Dear readers, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our hearts and minds. We hope that you will learn from our history and apply it to your future.